Yuriy is the advisor to Ukraine's defense minister. He's with me now from Kyiv. The jubilation in Kherson is understandable. And now we need to understand what is likely to happen next, because the weather is deteriorating. There is now this large river between the two sides and a sort of battle of attrition. Now the scene is set.
Yes, indeed. Good evening, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to your audiences. This is a milestone. Kherson is the only regional center that the aggressive Russian army was able to gain control of since the beginning of this large-scale invasion. And the fact that the Russian troops are now retreating means and only proves that the Ukrainian armed forces have been exceptionally successful at our counteroffensive, which has lasted now for some weeks. We have destroyed their logistical and supply lines. We have conducted high-precision strikes at their command centers, so they had no other choice. So they're leaving now, they're fleeing now. They're actually leaving behind some of their own. But at the same time, it is still too early to celebrate, because we fully understand that this is far from over. This war is not won yet, and our armed forces have actually warned just half an hour ago that we are prepared for further battles for our land.
Is this a case of digging in for the winter now? Because there comes a point upon which, yes, you're getting much more sophisticated technology and military technology from NATO and its allies. But at the end of the day, the physical business, if you will, of fighting a war becomes that much more difficult in the depths of winter.
Well, of course, the winter will be the factor. It will slow down the military operations due to weather conditions, but we will have to see what kind of winter we are going to have, because if you look now, we are in the middle of September almost, and the weather is not typical for September. It's still very warm. But Ukraine has been fighting this war since 2014, when the Crimea was annexed, when Russia invaded the Donbass area. So Ukrainian armed forces have experience of fighting in different weather conditions, including winter.
And I'm looking now at the various new arms that you've received. You have, of course, now received the new surface-to-air missiles for your air defences. You haven't got enough of the missiles, or indeed the launches yet, but more are on the way. And I also see that it's potentially that South Korea, via the United States, could end up supplying some armament. So there's an enormous amount heading your way still, but what more do you seek?
Richard, indeed, we are very grateful to our international partners and the US being the leader of this military assistance that we are receiving. And getting air defense systems has been a priority for us, because even last night there was a missile strike on the city of Mykolaiv, during which multi-story building was destroyed and 6 civilians were killed. So air defense is a priority for us. We know that Russia is shopping around globally for missiles. They are talking to Iran, they're talking to other countries with a view to acquiring more ballistic and cruise missiles. So we are trying to improve our air defense capacity, and the more we receive, the better.
Right.
Yesterday
The one point I do want to talk about, I mean, there is this awfulness of what's become sort of casually, not casually, but known as Missile Monday, when huge numbers of missiles are sent by Russia at your infrastructure, but you can't repair that infrastructure quickly enough. And I'm wondering whether this is now the soft underbelly. How do you cope in the weeks ahead if they continue to target such infrastructure, electricity, bridges, water works, all the machinations, if you will, of civilization?
Indeed, these missile strikes, they have done a lot of damage to our electricity infrastructure. We still have power cuts, we still have blackouts, but our government and our emergency services are doing all they can to restore these facilities as fast as they can. And our partners, especially European partners, have been providing Ukraine with necessary repair equipment and generators for electricity. So it is still a challenge We understand it, and we will rely on our partners to help us cope with this.
Sir, I'm grateful that you've taken time today. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, joining us. Now,
Thank you, Richard, and you're welcome to arrive in Kiev on the first plane when it's safe.
oh, I'll be there. Don't fret about that. There's a huge economic story and business story that we need to get to grips with, and I'll be one of the first, if not the first, there to look at it. Sir, I'm grateful to you tonight.